This is HOA Meltdown Moments. I did not raise my voice, I raised my evidence packet. I am standing in my backyard in Albany, New York, holding a tape measure, when Patricia Evans comes around the side of my house without knocking and starts yelling before I even turn around. "You cannot build that fence there. That is a setback violation, and you are going to remove it today, or the association will fine you $500 and force removal at your expense." I look at her. Patricia is the social committee chair for the Enclave at Stonegate Landing Association, which means she spreads rumors at cookouts and appoints herself the compliance enforcer whenever she feels like it. She is wearing a purple blazer and a white sun hat, and she has a tiny body camera clipped to her lapel that she apparently thinks makes her look official. I am a pest control technician. I keep detailed service logs for every house I visit, because if you do not document everything in my line of work, you lose disputes and you lose money. That habit is about to save me. "The fence is not a setback violation," I say. "I measured it. It is 8 inches inside my property line. I pulled the plat map from the county." Patricia shakes her head like I just told her the earth is flat. That is not good enough. The covenants require a licensed survey before any fence installation, and you did not submit one. You also did not submit your design for architectural review. You were in violation on 2 counts. I take a breath. I moved to Albany 6 months ago for work. The pay is good, and the commute is under 30 minutes, which matters because my car is essential and I cannot afford to lose it. The Enclave at Stonegate Landing Association has rules about everything. Fence height, fence color, fence style, mailbox shape, driveway edging, shed placement, basketball hoop location. The rules are not the problem. The problem is that Patricia and her friends enforce them selectively. If they like you, you get a warning and a chance to fix it. If they do not like you, you get a fine notice the same day, and they start talking about forced compliance and liens. I knew the fence would be an issue, so I did my homework. I checked the covenants, I pulled my plat map, I measured twice, and I hired a contractor who has done 6 fences in this neighborhood. But I did not submit anything to the Architectural Review Committee because the covenant section on fences does not require pre-approval for a fence under 6 feet on a rear property line. It requires a survey if the fence is within 3 feet of the line, which mine is not, and it requires the fence to match one of 4 approved styles. I picked split rail cedar because that is on the approved list. Patricia does not care. She pulls out a clipboard in a clear sleeve and waves it at me. This is a laminated notice template with blank spaces she fills in by hand, and I can see my address at the top, but I cannot read the rest because she is moving it around. "You have 72 hours to remove the fence or submit a complete survey, design packet, and variance request. If you do not, the association will escalate." "Escalate how?" I ask. She smiles. "The board will back me because they are afraid of me. You can be mad, or you can be compliant. Your choice." She turns and walks back around the house. I stand there with the tape measure in my hand, looking at the fence. It is barely started. 4 posts are set in concrete, and I have a pile of pickets on the side yard waiting for the contractor to come back tomorrow. The contractor already told me the HOA might hassle me, and he said if they do, get a survey and make them prove I am wrong. That is exactly what I am going to do. I pull out my phone and call the surveyor the contractor recommended. I explain the situation. The surveyor says he can come out Monday, run the full property line, and have a certified plat ready by Wednesday. It is going to cost me $400. I agree and book it. Then I open my service log app, the one I use for work, and I start a new entry. I label it Enclave Fence Dispute, and I write down everything that just happened. Time, date, what Patricia said, what I said, the notice she waived, the 72-hour deadline. I take photos of the fence posts, the tape measure reading, and the pile of pickets. I photograph the laminated notice template on the ground where Patricia dropped a blank one last week during a neighborhood meeting. I do not know if I will need all this, but I have learned that when someone is trying to push you around, documentation is the only thing that matters. Monday morning, the surveyor arrives. His name is Mark, and he has a crew of 2 guys with him. They set up a total station on a tripod and start shooting angles and distances. They drive stakes into the ground every 20 feet along my rear property line and along both sidelines. Each stake has an orange flag on top. Mark tells me the survey will show exact distances from my fence post to the property line, and it will show the setback measurements from my house to the line. He says if the HOA disputes his work, they can hire their own surveyor, but his license is current and his work will hold up. The whole process takes 3 hours. When they are done, Mark hands me a business card and says the certified plat will be ready Wednesday afternoon. I thank him and take more photos. I photograph the stakes, the flags, the total station, and the crew packing up. I write it all in my log. Tuesday, the contractor comes back and finishes the fence. He installs the rails and the pickets, and by Tuesday evening, I have a complete split rail cedar fence running along my entire rear property line. It looks great. The wood is fresh and the hardware is clean. The contractor tells me to let him know if the HOA gives me trouble, and he leaves. Wednesday afternoon, I pick up the certified survey from Mark's office. It is a legal-sized document with a raised seal and Mark's signature. The survey shows my fence posts are 8.2 inches inside my property line at the closest point and 11.6 inches inside at the farthest point. The fence is not within 3 feet of the line, so under the covenants, I did not need a survey before building. But now I have one anyway, and it proves I am right. I make 3 copies. I keep one for myself, I put one in a folder for the HOA, and I scan one into my phone. Then I email the HOA management company and attach the scan. I write a polite email explaining that I have completed the fence, that it complies with all covenant requirements, and that I am providing the certified survey as proof. I ask them to close the violation file. The management company does not reply. Thursday morning, I get a new notice in my mailbox. It is the same laminated template, but this time, the blank spaces are filled in with a demand for proof, in a format they never mentioned until today. The notice says I must provide a design packet, including materials list, color samples, construction photos, and contractor license verification. And I must submit it to the Architectural Review Committee within 48 hours. If I do not, the association will proceed with forced removal, and I will be billed for all costs. I stare at the notice. This is insane. The covenants do not require any of this for a rear line fence under 6 feet. I have the survey. I have photos. The fence is on the approved list. But Patricia is escalating because I did not fold immediately. I call the management company. I get a woman named Lisa who says she is the property manager for the enclave. I explain the situation. I tell her I submitted the survey, the fence is compliant, and the new notice is demanding things that are not in the covenants. Lisa says she will look into it and call me back. She does not call back. Friday afternoon, I come home from work and there is a tow warning sticker on my windshield. It says my vehicle is parked in violation of association rules and will be towed within 24 hours if not moved to a compliant location. My car is parked in my own driveway. I have lived here 6 months and I have always parked in my driveway. No one has ever said anything about it. I take a photo of the sticker. I check the covenants. There is nothing about driveway parking. There is a section about street parking, but my car is not on the street. This is harassment, plain and simple. Patricia is using the management company and the tow vendor together to pressure me, and it is working because my car is essential for my commute. If they tow it, I am stuck. I call Lisa again. This time she answers. I explain the tow sticker. She says the board has the right to enforce parking rules as they see fit, and if I have a complaint, I need to submit it in writing to the board. I ask her if the board has a meeting scheduled. She says the next meeting is in 2 weeks. I hang up and I call an attorney. I find a guy named Paul who does HOA disputes. I explain everything. Paul listens, and then he says I have 2 options. Option 1, I can file a complaint with the county and wait for them to investigate, which could take months. Option 2, I can request a hearing with the board, present my evidence, and force them to rule on the record. If they rule against me and I can prove they violated their own covenants, I can sue. But litigation is expensive and slow. Paul also tells me something useful. He says if the HOA is violating open meeting rules, I can use that. New York has laws requiring HOA boards to give notice of meetings and allow owners to attend. If the board is making decisions in private without notice, that is a violation, and it can void their decisions. I thank Paul and hang up. I do not have the money for a lawsuit, but I have the information I need. I am going to request a hearing, and I am going to document everything. Saturday morning, I draft a formal hearing request. I cite the covenant section on dispute resolution, and I request a hearing within 7 days. I attach the certified survey, photos of the fence, photos of the notice templates, and a copy of the tow sticker. I email it to Lisa, and I CC the board president, whose email is on the HOA website. An hour later, Patricia shows up at my door. She does not knock. She rings the doorbell, and then she starts yelling through the door. You are not going to win this. You are wasting everyone's time. The board is going to side with me because you are a troublemaker, and we do not tolerate that here. I open the door. Patricia is standing on my porch with her clipboard. Her tiny body camera is still clipped to her blazer. I can see the red recording light. I am not a troublemaker, I say. I followed the rules. I have a certified survey that proves my fence is compliant. If the board wants to dispute that, they can hold a hearing and we can do this on the record. Patricia shakes her head. You think you are clever, but you are not. You did not submit a design packet. You did not get pre-approval. You are in violation and you are going to pay. I pull out my phone and I start recording. Patricia sees the phone and she stops talking. Then she smiles. You can be mad, or you can be compliant, she says. She turns and walks away. I save the video. I write it in my log. I note the time, the date, and the fact that her body camera was recording the whole thing. That is going to matter later. Sunday, I get an email from Lisa. The board has scheduled a special hearing for Tuesday evening at 7. The hearing will take place at the clubhouse. I am allowed to present evidence, but I have a 10-minute limit. The board will rule immediately after. I reply and confirm. Then I prepare. I print out the survey. I print out the covenant sections. I print out the photos. I print out the tow sticker. I print out the notice templates. I put everything in a folder. I also make a second folder with something extra. It is a screenshot of the HOA group chat that I got from my neighbor, a guy named Sam, who is on the board but does not like Patricia. The screenshot shows Patricia coordinating with 2 other board members to retaliate against me. The messages are clear. They say things like make him sweat, hit him with every rule we can find, and do not let him think he can ignore us. I am not going to show the screenshot at the hearing. I am going to show it to the management company regional supervisor instead of Lisa, because Lisa reports to the board, and she is not going to help me. The regional supervisor has the authority to override the board if they are violating the management contract. Sam gave me his contact information, and I already sent him an email with the screenshot attached. I explained the harassment and the selective enforcement. I asked him to review the situation before the hearing. He has not replied yet, but I am hoping he will. Monday evening, my neighbor across the street, a woman named Tina who does payroll for a local firm, knocks on my door. She says she saw Patricia going door to door earlier today, and Patricia is telling people that I am building an unapproved structure and that if the board does not stop me, everyone's property values will drop. Tina says it is nonsense, but people are listening because Patricia is loud and persistent. Tina also tells me that Patricia posted cropped screenshots from the group chat on the neighborhood Facebook page, and the cropped versions make it look like I am the one harassing the HOA. The group chat believes the crop because they do not have the full context. I think Tina and I check Facebook. She is right. Patricia posted 3 screenshots, and they are all cropped to remove the parts where she and the other board members talk about retaliating. The comments are full of people saying I am a problem and the board is right to crack down. I save the screenshots. I save the comments. I add them to my evidence folder. I also call Sam. He answers, and I ask him if he is going to the hearing. He says yes, but he is not optimistic. He says Patricia has 2 other board members in her pocket, and together they have enough votes to rule against me. Sam says the only way I win is if I can prove they violated procedure, or if the regional supervisor steps in. I tell Sam about the email I sent to the regional supervisor. Sam says that was smart, but he does not know if the supervisor will act in time. Tuesday evening, I arrive at the clubhouse at 6:45. The hearing is set for 7. The clubhouse is a small building with a meeting room, a kitchen, and a lobby. When I walk in, Patricia is already there. She is sitting at a table in the front of the room with 2 other board members, a man named George and a woman named Linda. Sam is sitting off to the side. There are about 10 other residents in the audience, including Tina and a maintenance worker in a reflective vest who I have seen around the neighborhood. The maintenance worker is just standing in the back corner, watching silently. Patricia looks at me and smiles. You can still withdraw your hearing request and comply voluntarily. It will save everyone time. I sit down in the front row, and I do not answer. I put my folder on my lap, and I wait. At 7, George calls the meeting to order. He reads a statement about the hearing process. He says I have 10 minutes to present my case, and then the board will ask questions. After that, the board will deliberate and issue a ruling. George asks me to come forward. I walk up to the front and I lay out my evidence on the table. I start with the certified survey. I explain that the survey shows my fence is 8.2 inches inside my property line, and I point out that the covenants do not require a survey unless the fence is within 3 feet of the line. I show photos of the fence. I show the covenant sections that list split rail cedar as an approved style. I explain that I did not need pre-approval because the fence is on the approved list and it is on my rear property line. Then I show the notice templates. I explain that Patricia issued 2 notices with escalating demands, and neither notice is supported by the covenants. I show the tow sticker. I explain that my car is parked in my own driveway and there is no covenant rule against that. I finish by saying that I have complied with all applicable rules, and I request that the board close the violation file and issue a written statement confirming compliance. George looks at Patricia. Patricia stands up. She does not wait for George to recognize her. The problem is not the survey, she says. The problem is that you did not submit a design packet. You did not get pre-approval. You are trying to hide behind technicalities, but the covenants give the board broad discretion to enforce community standards. You violated those standards, and you are going to remove the fence. I stare at her. I pull out the covenant book, and I read the section on fences out loud. It does not mention a design packet. It does not mention pre-approval for fences on the approved list. I point this out. Patricia waves her hand. The Architectural Review Committee has the authority to require additional information. You did not cooperate, so you are in violation. George looks uncomfortable. He says the board will deliberate and issue a ruling within 48 hours. He dismisses me, and I sit down. The board goes into a side room to deliberate. The audience starts talking. Tina leans over and says she thinks I did a good job, but she does not know if it will matter. Sam shakes his head and says Patricia already has the votes. 10 minutes later, the board comes back. George reads the ruling. The board finds that I violated the architectural review process by failing to submit a design packet. The board orders me to remove the fence within 7 days or face daily fines of $100. The board also orders me to move my car off the driveway and park it on the street until further notice. I stand up. I ask George if the board is aware that there is no covenant rule requiring a design packet for rear line fences on the approved list. George says the board has discretion. I ask if the board is aware that there is no covenant rule against driveway parking. George says the board has discretion. I sit down. I am angry, but I am not surprised. I pull out my phone and I send a text to the regional supervisor. I attach the hearing recording that I made on my phone. I write, the board just violated their own covenants and retaliated against me for requesting a hearing. Please review. The regional supervisor does not reply that night. Wednesday morning, I wake up to a new notice in my mailbox. It is dated 2 weeks ago. It is a violation notice for the same fence issue, but the date is backdated to before I installed the fence. The notice says I failed to submit a pre-construction design packet, and it imposes a fine of $250. The notice is signed by Patricia. I take a photo. This is fraud. Patricia is backdating notices to create a paper trail that makes it look like I was warned before I started. I add the photo to my evidence folder. I also call Paul, the attorney. Paul says backdating notices is a big problem for the HOA, and if I can prove Patricia did it, I have grounds for a lawsuit. But I need more proof. I decide to do something risky. I am going to catch Patricia in the act. Wednesday evening, I set up my phone on a tripod in my front window. I angle it so it captures my mailbox and the walkway up to my door. I set it to record and I wait. Around 8, Patricia walks up my walkway. She is wearing the purple blazer and the white sun hat. The tiny body camera is on her lapel, but the red light is off. She opens my mailbox, puts a notice inside, and closes it. Then, she walks away. I save the video. I go outside and I retrieve the notice. It is another backdated notice, this one dated 3 weeks ago. It says I failed to respond to the original violation and it imposes an additional fine of $500. I have her. Patricia is placing backdated notices herself, and I have video proof. I send the video to the regional supervisor with a message. Patricia Evans is committing fraud by backdating notices and placing them in my mailbox. This is retaliation for my hearing request. Please act immediately. Thursday morning, the regional supervisor replies. His name is Tom. He says he has reviewed my evidence and he is scheduling a meeting with the board for Friday afternoon. He says I am invited to attend and he is going to address the backdated notices, the retaliation, and the procedural violations. He also says the tow threat is suspended pending resolution. I thank Tom and I prepare for the meeting. I print out everything. I print the video still showing Patricia placing the notice. I print the backdated notices. I print the group chat screenshot. I print the hearing recording transcript. I put it all in a folder. Friday afternoon, I arrive at the clubhouse at 2. Tom is already there. He is a tall man in a suit, and he looks annoyed. The board is there, Patricia, George, Linda, and Sam. Sam looks relieved to see me. Patricia looks furious. Tom starts the meeting. He says he has reviewed my complaint and he has serious concerns. He says the board violated the covenants by imposing requirements that do not exist. He says Patricia violated the management contract by backdating notices. He says the board violated open meeting rules by deliberating in private without giving proper notice to the community. Tom turns to Patricia. He says he has video evidence of her placing backdated notices and he asks her to explain. Patricia says she was just delivering notices that should have been delivered earlier. Tom says that is not how it works. He says backdating documents is fraud and it violates the management contract. He says if Patricia does not resign from the board immediately, he will refer the matter to the state attorney general. Patricia stands up. She starts yelling. She says Tom does not have the authority to remove her. She says the board will back her because they are afraid of her. She says I am the problem and I need to be removed from the neighborhood. Tom cuts her off. He says the management contract gives him the authority to suspend board members for fraud and misconduct, and he is exercising that authority right now. He says Patricia is suspended effective immediately, and the board will hold a special election to replace her. Patricia grabs her clipboard and she storms out. As she is leaving, she trips on the doorway and the clipboard goes flying. Papers scatter everywhere. One of the papers is the laminated notice template with blank spaces. Another is a handwritten list of names, and my name is at the top with the word Target next to it. I take a photo. Tom takes a photo. George takes a photo. The meeting ends and Tom tells me the violation file is closed. He says I do not owe any fines and the board will issue a written statement confirming that my fence is compliant. He also says the HOA is going to review all recent enforcement actions to check for selective enforcement and retaliation. I thank Tom and I leave. I am relieved, but I know this is not over. Patricia is not going to let this go quietly. Saturday morning, Patricia posts a long rant on the neighborhood Facebook page. She says I am a liar and a bully. She says I manipulated the management company and got her suspended unfairly. She says the board is weak and the neighborhood is going to fall apart because no one is willing to enforce the rules anymore. The post gets a lot of comments. Some people agree with her. Some people say she is out of line. Some people tag me and ask for my side of the story. I do not reply on Facebook. Instead, I write a letter to the editor of the local neighborhood newsletter. I explain the situation calmly and factually. I explain that I followed the covenants, that I provided a certified survey, and that the board violated procedure by imposing requirements that do not exist. I explain that Patricia backdated notices and retaliated against me. I attach the video stills and the group chat screenshot. I send the letter to the newsletter editor and I ask him to publish it. The editor replies and says he will run it in the next issue, which comes out in a week. Sunday, I get a call from Sam. He says the board is holding a special meeting on Tuesday to discuss the enforcement review and the special election. He says the meeting is open to all residents and he thinks I should attend. He also says that several other residents have come forward with complaints about Patricia and selective enforcement. Sam says the complaints are piling up and the board is starting to realize that Patricia has been abusing her position for months. I tell Sam I will be there. Monday, I go to work. I am doing a termite inspection at a house in a neighborhood near mine. The homeowner is a woman named Karen, which is confusing. But she is friendly and she asks me how I am doing. I tell her about the fence dispute. She laughs and says HOA boards are the worst. She says her old neighborhood had a board president who tried to ban bird feeders because they attracted squirrels. She says the president lost a recall election after someone found out she had 3 bird feeders in her own yard. I finish the inspection and I drive home. When I get there, there is a car parked on the street in front of my house. It is a sedan with a county government plate. A man in a polo shirt gets out and introduces himself as an inspector from the county planning department. He says someone filed a complaint about my fence, and he is here to verify compliance. I show him the certified survey. I show him the fence. I show him the covenant book. The inspector measures the fence height, checks the setback, and takes photos. Then, he says, the fence is compliant with county code and with the covenants. He says the complaint is closed. He also says that filing a false complaint is a misdemeanor, and if I know who filed it, I can report them. I thank the inspector. I do not need to guess who filed the complaint. It was Patricia. Tuesday evening, I go to the special board meeting. The clubhouse is packed. There are at least 30 residents in the room, which is more than I have ever seen at an HOA meeting. Sam is at the front table with George and Linda. Tom is there too. Patricia is not there, but I can see her car in the parking lot. George calls the meeting to order. He says the board has completed the enforcement review, and they have found multiple violations of procedure and selective enforcement. George says the board is issuing formal apologies to 6 residents, including me, and the board is refunding all fines that were improperly imposed. George also says the board is going to revise the enforcement policy to require written notice, clear deadlines, and an appeal process. Then Tom stands up. He says the management company has received more than 20 complaints about Patricia in the last week. He says the complaints include harassment, retaliation, selective enforcement, and fraud. Tom says the management company is terminating Patricia's access to the management system, and she is no longer authorized to issue notices or represent the HOA in any capacity. Tom also says the board is going to hold a special election in 2 weeks to fill Patricia's seat. He says any resident in good standing can run, and the election will be conducted by secret ballot. Then, Tom says something I did not expect. He says the management company is also investigating the other 2 board members who participated in the group chat retaliation, and if the investigation finds misconduct, those members will be suspended as well. George and Linda look at each other. Linda stands up and resigns on the spot. She says she does not want to deal with the stress anymore, and she is done. George looks like he wants to resign too, but he does not say anything. The meeting goes on for another hour. Residents ask questions. Some people complain about other enforcement issues. Some people thank Tom for stepping in. At the end, Sam makes a motion to schedule the special election for 2 weeks from today, and the motion passes unanimously. I leave the meeting feeling better than I have in weeks. The board is falling apart, and Patricia has lost all her power. But I know she is not done yet. Wednesday morning, I wake up to find that my fence has been vandalized. Someone spray painted a crude message on 3 of the fence pickets. The message is not readable because it is just scribbles, but the intent is clear. Someone is angry. I take photos. I call the police. An officer comes out and takes a report. The officer says there is no video evidence and no witnesses, so it is unlikely they will catch whoever did it. The officer also says vandalism like this is usually personal, and I should consider installing a camera. I already have a camera, the one I set up to catch Patricia. I checked the footage from last night. The camera is angled at my mailbox, but it also captures part of the side yard where the fence is. Around 2 in the morning, a figure in dark clothing walks up to the fence and spray paints it. The figure is wearing a hood and I cannot see their face, but I can see the body shape and the gait. It looks like Patricia. I save the video. I send it to the police officer. I also send it to Tom. Tom replies within an hour and says he is forwarding it to the HOA attorney. He says if Patricia vandalized my fence, the HOA will cover the repair costs and Patricia will be banned from the property. Thursday, the newsletter comes out. My letter to the editor is on the front page. The editor added a note saying that multiple residents have confirmed similar experiences with selective enforcement, and the board is addressing the issue. The letter includes the video stills of Patricia placing the backdated notice and the group chat screenshot showing the retaliation plan. The reaction is immediate. The neighborhood Facebook page explodes. People are posting their own stories about Patricia. Someone says Patricia threatened to fine them for having a garden gnome. Someone else says Patricia tried to ban holiday lights after Thanksgiving. Someone else says Patricia issued a violation notice for a basketball hoop that had been there for 5 years. Patricia posts a reply. She says the newsletter is biased and the video is fake. She says I am running a smear campaign because I am mad that she caught me breaking the rules. She says the board is corrupt and the management company is incompetent. No one believes her. The comments are overwhelmingly against her. Several people call for a recall vote. One person posts a photo of Patricia's own yard, which has a shed that is not on the approved shed list, and a mailbox that does not match the approved mailbox style. The photo goes viral in the neighborhood group. Friday morning, Tom sends an email to the entire community. The email says the board has voted to hold a recall election for the remaining board members, and the election will be held at the same time as the special election for Patricia's seat. Tom says the recall election was triggered by a petition signed by 45 residents, which is more than the required 30% of the community. The email also says the HOA attorney has sent Patricia a cease and desist letter demanding that she stop representing herself as an HOA representative and stop contacting residents about enforcement matters. The letter says if Patricia violates the cease and desist, the HOA will pursue legal action. Saturday, I spend the day cleaning the spray paint off my fence. It takes 3 hours and a lot of scrubbing, but I get it done. While I am working, Tina comes over and asks if I am going to run for the board. I laugh and say no. I do not want to be on the board. I just want to be left alone. Tina says I should reconsider. She says the neighborhood needs people who will follow the rules and not abuse their power. She says if people like me do not run, people like Patricia will keep getting elected. I tell her I will think about it. Sunday, I get a text from Sam. He says George resigned this morning. Sam says George sent an email to the board saying he is tired of the drama and he does not want to be part of the recall election. Sam says that leaves only him and Linda on the board, and Linda already resigned. Sam says the board is effectively dissolved and the management company is going to appoint an interim board until the election. I text back and ask Sam if he is going to run in the election. Sam says yes. He says he wants to fix the enforcement policy and make sure the board follows the covenants. He also says he is going to propose a rule that requires all board members to complete training on fiduciary duty and open meeting laws. I tell Sam that is a good idea. Monday, I go to work. I am doing a routine inspection at a house on the other side of town. The homeowner asks me if I am the guy from the enclave who is fighting the HOA. I say yes. The homeowner says he read about it in the newsletter and he thinks I am doing the right thing. He says his brother lives in an HOA that fined him $2,000 for painting his front door the wrong shade of blue, and the board would not tell him what the right shade was. He says HOA boards are out of control and someone needs to stand up to them. I finish the inspection and I drive home. When I get there, there is a camera crew in front of my house. It is a local news station. A reporter introduces herself and says she is doing a story on HOA overreach and she wants to interview me. I agree. The reporter asks me to explain what happened. I walk her through the whole thing. I show her the fence, the survey, the notices, the video of Patricia placing the backdated notice, and the group chat screenshot. The reporter takes notes and records video. She says the story will air on Wednesday evening. Tuesday, Patricia shows up at my house again. This time, she does not yell. She knocks on the door, and when I open it, she is calm. She says she wants to apologize. She says she overreacted and she should have handled the situation better. She says she is willing to drop all the violations and move on if I will agree to drop my complaints against her. I stare at her. This is a trap. Patricia is trying to get me to back off before the recall election. I shake my head and say no. I say she broke the rules, she committed fraud, and she harassed me for weeks. I say I am not dropping anything, and the community deserves to know what she did. Patricia's face changes. The calm mask drops, and the anger comes back. You are going to regret this, she says. You think you won, but you have no idea what I am capable of. The board will back me because they are afraid of me. You can be mad, or you can be compliant. I pull out my phone, and I start recording. Patricia sees the phone, and she stops talking. Then, she notices her own body camera. The red light is on. She has been recording herself this whole time. Patricia turns and walks away. I save the video. I send it to Tom. Tom replies and says Patricia just violated the cease and desist, and the HOA attorney is filing a motion for a restraining order. Wednesday evening, the news story airs. The reporter does a 4-minute segment on HOA overreach, and I am the main example. The story includes the video of Patricia placing the backdated notice, the group chat screenshot, and an interview with Tom. Tom says the management company is taking the issue seriously and implementing new oversight procedures. The story also includes an interview with Patricia, who denies everything and says she is the victim of a smear campaign. The story goes viral. It gets shared on Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. People from all over the state are commenting and sharing their own HOA horror stories. The enclave at Stonegate Landing Association is now famous for all the wrong reasons. Thursday, Tom sends another email to the community. The email says the recall election and the special election will be held on Saturday at the clubhouse from 10 in the morning to 6 in the evening. Tom says the ballot will include 3 seats: Patricia's vacated seat, George's vacated seat, and Sam's seat, which is up for recall even though Sam did not participate in the retaliation. Tom says any resident in good standing can run, and candidates must submit a nomination form by Friday at noon. The email also says the HOA attorney has obtained a temporary restraining order against Patricia. The order prohibits Patricia from contacting me, entering my property, or representing herself as an HOA representative. The order is effective immediately and will remain in place until a hearing next month. Friday at noon, the nomination deadline passes. 7 people have submitted nomination forms. Sam is running for re-election. Tina is running. A guy named Mike, who lives 3 streets over, is running. 4 other people I do not know are running. Patricia did not submit a form, which means she is not on the ballot. Friday evening, I get a call from Paul, the attorney. He says he has been following the news coverage, and he thinks I have a strong case for a lawsuit against Patricia personally for harassment and fraud. Paul says I could sue for damages, legal fees, and emotional distress. He says it is up to me, but he thinks I would win. I tell Paul I will think about it. Right now, I just want the election to be over and the neighborhood to move on. Saturday morning, I vote. The clubhouse is busy. There is a line of people waiting to vote, and the atmosphere is tense. I fill out my ballot and I drop it in the box. I vote for Sam, Tina, and Mike. Then I leave. Saturday evening, Tom sends an email with the results. Sam won re-election with 78% of the vote. Tina and Mike won the other 2 seats. The recall measure against Sam failed. The new board is Sam, Tina, and Mike. The email also says the new board will hold its first meeting on Monday evening, and the meeting will be open to all residents. The agenda includes revising the enforcement policy, approving the budget, and discussing the management contract. Sunday, I relax. For the first time in weeks, I feel like I can breathe. The fence is done. The violation file is closed. Patricia is gone. The board is new. The neighborhood is moving on. Monday evening, I go to the first meeting of the new board. The clubhouse is full again. Sam, Tina, and Mike are at the front table. Tom is there too. The meeting starts with Sam reading a statement. He says the board is committed to transparency, fairness, and following the covenants. He says the board will not tolerate selective enforcement or retaliation. He says the board is going to implement a new enforcement policy that requires written notice, clear deadlines, and an appeal process. He also says the board is going to require all board members to complete training on fiduciary duty and open meeting laws. Then, Sam says something that surprises me. He says the board has reviewed all enforcement actions from the past year, and they have found that Patricia issued more than 50 violation notices, and 30 of those notices were not supported by the covenants. Sam says the board is refunding all fines that were improperly imposed, and the total refund amount is more than $8,000. The room erupts in applause. People are cheering. Someone shouts that Patricia should be banned from the neighborhood. Someone else shouts that Patricia should be prosecuted. Tina stands up and says the board is also going to propose a covenant amendment that limits the board's discretion and requires the board to follow the covenants as written. Tina says the amendment will be voted on at the annual meeting in 2 months. The meeting goes on for another hour. Residents ask questions and make suggestions. At the end, Sam thanks everyone for coming and says the board is committed to making the enclave at Stonegate Landing Association a better place to live. I leave the meeting feeling optimistic. The board is new, the policy is changing, and the neighborhood is moving in the right direction. Tuesday, I get a call from the news reporter. She says she is doing a follow-up story on the election results, and she wants to interview me again. I agree. The reporter comes to my house and we do a short interview in my backyard next to the fence. The reporter asks me how I feel about the outcome. I say I am relieved and I am glad the neighborhood is moving forward. The reporter asks me if I am going to sue Patricia. I say I have not decided yet. The follow-up story airs on Wednesday evening. The story includes the election results, the refund announcement, and my interview. The story also includes a statement from Tom, who says the management company is committed to working with the new board to improve oversight and accountability. Thursday, I get an email from Tom. The email says the management company has completed its investigation into Patricia's conduct, and the findings are being referred to the county district attorney for possible criminal charges. Tom says the investigation found evidence of fraud, harassment, and misuse of HOA funds. Tom says the management company is cooperating fully with the district attorney, and the HOA is terminating its relationship with Patricia permanently. Friday, I get a letter in the mail. It is from the county district attorney's office. The letter says the office is investigating allegations of fraud and official misconduct involving the enclave at Stonegate Landing Association, and they are requesting my cooperation. The letter asks me to contact the office to schedule an interview. I call the number on the letter and I schedule an interview for next week. I tell the assistant district attorney that I have video evidence, documents, and recordings, and I am willing to provide everything. Saturday, I spend the day working on my yard. I plant some flowers along the fence line, and I clean up the side yard. While I am working, my neighbor Sam comes over and thanks me for standing up to Patricia. Sam says if I had not pushed back, Patricia would still be running the board, and nothing would have changed. Sam also says the new board is going to name the revised enforcement policy after me as a way to honor my fight for accountability. I tell Sam that is not necessary, but Sam insists. He says the policy is going to be called the Fair Enforcement and Transparency Policy, and it is going to include a section on resident rights and a section on board accountability. Sunday, I relax. I sit on my back porch and I look at the fence. It is a good fence. It is straight, it is sturdy, and it is exactly where it is supposed to be. The survey stakes are still in the ground with the orange flags on top. The maintenance worker in the reflective vest walks by on the sidewalk and gives me a thumbs up. I wave back. Monday, I go to the district attorney's office for my interview. I bring all my evidence. I bring the video of Patricia placing the backdated notice. I bring the group chat screenshot. I bring the hearing recording. I bring the notice templates. I bring the tow sticker. I bring everything. The assistant district attorney is a woman named Rachel. She listens to my story and reviews my evidence. Rachel says the evidence is strong and the office is considering charges of forgery, fraud, and official misconduct. Rachel says if Patricia is charged, she could face up to 5 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. Rachel also says the office is investigating whether other board members participated in the fraud, and if they did, they could be charged as well. I thank Rachel and I leave. I am glad the district attorney is taking this seriously. Tuesday, I get a call from Paul, the attorney. Paul says he has been monitoring the district attorney investigation, and he thinks I should file a civil lawsuit against Patricia while the criminal case is pending. Paul says the criminal case will make the civil case easier to win, and I could recover damages for harassment, emotional distress, and legal fees. Paul says he is willing to take the case on a contingency basis, which means I do not pay unless I win. I tell Paul I will think about it. I am not sure I want to go through a lawsuit, but I also do not want Patricia to get away with what she did. Wednesday, I get an email from Sam. The email says the new board held a special meeting and voted to hire an independent auditor to review the HOA's finances. Sam says the auditor is going to look at all transactions from the past 3 years, including the fines that Patricia collected and the expenses she approved. Sam says the audit should be completed in 6 weeks. Thursday, I get a letter from the HOA attorney. The letter says the HOA is offering to settle my potential civil claims for $5,000 and a written apology. The letter says the settlement would include a non-disparagement clause, which means I could not talk about the case publicly. The letter asks me to respond within 10 days. I call Paul and I read him the letter. Paul says $5,000 is a low offer, and the non-disparagement clause is a red flag. Paul says if I go to trial, I could win a lot more, and I would not have to agree to a gag order. Paul says it is my choice, but he recommends rejecting the offer and filing the lawsuit. I tell Paul I will think about it. Friday, I make my decision. I am going to reject the settlement offer and file the lawsuit. I want Patricia to be held accountable, and I want the community to know what she did. I call Paul and tell him to file the lawsuit. Paul says he will draft the complaint and file it next week. Saturday, the neighborhood newsletter comes out again. The newsletter includes a front-page story about the election results, the refund announcement, and the new enforcement policy. The story also includes a statement from the new board thanking me for standing up to Patricia and fighting for accountability. The statement says the board is committed to making sure nothing like this ever happens again. Sunday, I spend the day with friends. We have a barbecue in my backyard next to the fence. Everyone wants to hear the story, so I tell it. I tell them about the survey, the notices, the hearing, the backdated documents, the video, the recall election, and the lawsuit. Everyone is amazed. One of my friends says I should write a book. Another friend says I should run for the board. I laugh and say no. I just want to live in peace. Monday, Paul files the lawsuit. The complaint alleges harassment, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and abuse of process. The complaint seeks damages of $50,000, legal fees, and a permanent injunction prohibiting Patricia from serving on any HOA board in the future. The complaint is filed in county court and served on Patricia by a process server. Tuesday, the lawsuit becomes public. The local news picks up the story and runs a segment on the evening news. The segment includes an interview with Paul, who explains the allegations and the evidence. The segment also includes a statement from Patricia's attorney, who says the lawsuit is baseless and Patricia did nothing wrong. Wednesday, the neighborhood Facebook page explodes again. People are posting their reactions to the lawsuit. Most people support me. A few people say I am going too far and I should let it go. One person posts a meme of Patricia with the caption, "When you mess with the wrong neighbor." The meme gets shared dozens of times. Thursday, I get a call from Tom. Tom says the management company has completed the audit and the results are alarming. Tom says the audit found that Patricia collected more than $12,000 in fines over the past 3 years, and most of those fines were not supported by the covenants. Tom also says the audit found that Patricia approved several expenses that were not authorized by the board, including payments to a towing company and a printing company. Tom says the total amount of unauthorized expenses is more than $6,000. Tom says the management company is referring the audit results to the district attorney and to the HOA attorney. Tom also says the HOA is going to file a separate lawsuit against Patricia to recover the unauthorized expenses. Friday, I get a call from Rachel, the assistant district attorney. Rachel says the office has decided to file criminal charges against Patricia. The charges include forgery in the 2nd degree, fraud in the 3rd degree, and official misconduct. Rachel says the arraignment is scheduled for next month, and Patricia could face up to 5 years in prison if convicted. I thank Rachel and I hang up. I am relieved that the district attorney is taking action. Saturday, the criminal charges become public. The news runs a story on the charges, and the story includes mugshots and court documents. The story also includes a statement from the district attorney, who says the office takes HOA fraud seriously and will prosecute cases where board members abuse their power. Sunday, I wake up to a text from Sam. The text says Patricia was arrested this morning and released on bail. Sam says the arraignment is scheduled for Monday morning and the new board is planning to attend. Sam asks me if I want to go. I say yes. Monday morning, I go to the courthouse for the arraignment. The courtroom is small and there are about 20 people in the gallery, including Sam, Tina, Mike, Tom, and several other residents from the enclave. Patricia is there with her attorney. She looks tired and angry. The judge reads the charges and asks Patricia how she pleads. Patricia's attorney says she pleads not guilty. The judge sets a trial date for 3 months from now and releases Patricia on her own recognizance. The judge also issues a protective order prohibiting Patricia from contacting me or entering the enclave property. After the arraignment, I talk to Rachel outside the courthouse. Rachel says the case is strong and she expects Patricia to take a plea deal. Rachel says if Patricia does not take a deal, the trial will be quick because the evidence is overwhelming. Tuesday, I get a call from Paul. Paul says Patricia's attorney has reached out and offered to settle both the criminal case and the civil case. The offer includes a guilty plea on 1 count of fraud, probation, restitution of $15,000 to the HOA, and a settlement of my civil case for $25,000 plus legal fees. The offer also includes a permanent ban on Patricia serving on any HOA board in the state. Paul says the offer is reasonable and he recommends accepting it. Paul says if I go to trial, I could win more, but trials are unpredictable and expensive. Paul also says the criminal conviction and the permanent ban are important because they send a message that HOA fraud has consequences. I tell Paul I will accept the offer. I do not need to drag this out any longer. I just want it to be over. Wednesday, Paul finalizes the settlement. Patricia agrees to plead guilty, pay restitution, settle my civil case, and accept the permanent ban. The settlement is approved by the judge and the district attorney. The case is closed. Thursday, the settlement becomes public. The news runs a story on the settlement, and the story includes the details of the plea deal and the civil settlement. The story also includes a statement from me, which Paul helped me write. The statement says, "I am grateful that justice was served and that the community can move forward. I hope this case sends a message that HOA board members must follow the rules and respect the rights of residents." Friday, I get a check in the mail from Patricia's insurance company. The check is for $25,000. I deposit the check and I pay Paul his contingency fee. After fees and expenses, I net about $17,000. It is not life-changing money, but it is enough to cover my legal costs and then some. Saturday, I spend the day working on my yard again. I plant more flowers and I build a small patio next to the fence. While I am working, Tina comes over and tells me that the new board held a meeting last night and voted to approve the fair enforcement and transparency policy. Tina says the policy is now in effect and it includes all the protections we talked about: written notice, clear deadlines, appeal process, and board accountability. Tina also says the board voted to refund all improperly collected fines, and the total refund amount is more than $15,000. I think Tina and I keep working. The patio looks good, the flowers look good, the fence looks good. Everything is finally the way it should be. Sunday, I sit on my new patio and I think about everything that happened. It was a long fight, but it was worth it. Patricia is gone. The board is new. The policy is fair. The neighborhood is better. I learned that standing up to bullies is hard, but it is necessary. I learned that documentation is everything. I learned that you do not have to accept abuse just because someone has a title. I also learned that sometimes when you stand up for yourself, other people will stand up with you. Sam stood up. Tina stood up. Mike stood up. The maintenance worker watched and waited and eventually gave me a thumbs up. The community came together and made a change. It is not a perfect ending, but it is a good ending. The fence is up, the violation file is closed, and I can finally relax in my own backyard without worrying about laminated notice templates and backdated letters. Thanks for watching, and thanks for all the support.